All right, welcome back to the 21st episode of The Unknown. I am Michael Volpe, and I write at michaelvolpe.substack.com. I'm reporting from Chicago, which is in Cook County, Illinois. And this is Richard Luthmann, who writes at luthmann.substack.com. And that is spelled Luthmann. You're in Lee County, Florida, which is a lot warmer than Chicago, I'm pretty sure right now. We're at
Beautiful, right?
20 degrees Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit. I bet you're at like 20 some degrees Celsius. So you probably beat us without the change. We took a week off, and right around this time, usually there's no news, but for our current events section, it's going to be all Elon Musk all the time because this guy, he he is amazing. Number one, number two, you shouldn't underestimate anything he does. And I am going to start calling him the populist oligarch. And some of the stuff that he
Uh,
does, there's a sort of a blueprint for other entrepreneurs like him, like Henry Ford, Rockefeller, Steve Jobs, and those guys. But he's changing the game even on them. And so we took a week off, but um, I don't know what motivates him because I'm not in his head, but the end result may be that number one, he leads a revolution against what they call in Europe multiculturalism. In the US, we would call it unfettered immigration, both legal and illegal. And along with that, he may wind up being the most powerful person in the history of humankind. This guy is angling to have influence in governments throughout the world. He's friends with the guy from Argentina. He's friends with the prime minister of Italy. He late last year, after there was I think it was a car drove through a market in Germany, and it was a foreigner, and he came out to support AfD, which is the hardline party in Germany. And and let me see if I can find the article. And so and they are the most anti-immigration, anti-illegal immigration party. And I don't know if you're up for this. On the 10th, he's going to interview their leader on a Twitter space. You want to both listen to him? We'll report back next week.
yeah, no problem with that. Sure.
All right. So I don't know how much he knows about this party. They are definitely the most hardline against multiculturalism or unfettered immigration, but it's not the only issue that's around. So um, they want to get out of NATO. I don't know if he knows that. I don't know if he thinks that's a good idea. So, if you start agreeing with someone because they got one thing that you agree with and you don't know the rest, you could get into some trouble. Um and they also want to get out of the eurozone. So I don't know if he knows all of this. Here's the other problem, and I don't know if he knows this as well. The thing is, he I don't know if he shoots from the hip. So I think he does know all of this. But AfD, they're considered extremist by most of the other parties, and it's a parliamentary system in Germany. And the other parties will not form a government with them. So what generally happens in their elections, because there's like five or six parties running, the plurality, the party that gets the most, they win, but then they have to form a government. So they partner up with some or of the other parties, and then that's how they form a government. The other parties in Germany will refuse for now to form a government with AfD. So even if they win, assuming they continue with what they have so far agreed to, they can't form a government. But of course, that kind of stuff can change. But he's trying to influence the German election. He's also trying to influence the British election. And out of the blue, he started talking about the grooming gangs in England. And this is a story that's been around for decades. And now everybody's talking about grooming gangs in England. Is that pretty amazing? Um,
Well,
Go ahead.
Elon, first and foremost, there's an old saying by none other than the great Ronald Reagan, who
Mhm.
said, "When someone is your friend 80 or agrees with you 80% of your time, they're your friend and not your
Hmm.
enemy.
Right.
And that's part of what's the issue here. He's going and looking around the world and looking for a broad consensus, kind of the same way we did in America with our last election. We have a
Hmm.
lot of people that don't agree 100%, but there's about 75 or 80% agreement between the consensus about where we want to go as a country. You know,
Hmm.
that's that you can have a tent big enough to have an Elon Musk and a Donald Trump and a Bobby Kennedy and a Tulsi Gabbard and a lot of other people. So that's, I think, what he's trying to do
He
on an
he
international level.
he I he has honed in, and he's correct. And I've got up. This is Sammy Woodhouse. She was a victim of one of these grooming gangs, and here's what she said: "When I was being groomed and raped as a child by Rashid Hussein, my parents called on authorities, were ignored, and I was placed into foster care. Social worker Ann Cahill and my foster carer Jackie Edwards not only met my rapist, but they allowed him to come on vacation with us. He left the vacation a day early, and he robbed the hotel." And so she's pointing out that an underreported problem, because it doesn't fit the narrative that everyone cares about, is the failure of social services as well. But these grooming gangs were primarily Pakistani, so it is a failure of multiculturalism. He definitely has honed in on an issue that has broad consensus, which is look, in Europe they want to be like a welcoming society, but these folks coming from the Middle East, from Asia, from Pakistan, they don't assimilate, and they're coming in hordes. And he's right, and so he can hone in on that issue, but supporting it. Look, we'll see what happens. He supported reform, but then quickly he went against Nigel Farage, and that is, I believe, on the issue of Tommy Robinson. This is the one issue where I strongly disagree with him. I think that Robinson is a provocateur. He's the truth only matters to him if it fits his narrative. Now, he did talk about the grooming gangs, and let me get this article up. Elon, he, mainly what his problem is he doesn't understand why he's in jail for so long. And it has nothing to do with a cover up, at least not ostensibly, of any kind of grooming gangs. What happened with Robinson is that he was sued by a Syrian teenager for defamation. He lost, and then he continued to put out the exact same story in a documentary, and then that became a contempt of court issue. Now, look, in the U.S., you wouldn't go to jail for this long, but he could stay in jail for up to 2 years. Um, I agree with Elon that you shouldn't be in jail for 2 years for contempt of court, but I don't agree with him. This guy's any kind of a hero. He's got a long rap sheet. He's a provocateur. I think that could hurt Elon because this guy's going to do something that that is that you're not going to be able to excuse or explain because that's the kind of guy he is, and he made him into a cause celeb.
Like
But
he's become the hazard of causes. Look at Stuart Rhodes. Is
mm-hmm,
Trump going to pardon Stuart Rhodes in a few days? You know,
mm-hmm,
he's the guy's a Yale law educated individual, but some people
mm-hmm.
say he's extremely dangerous. And when he comes out, is he going to be? And if he is pardoned, is he going to be a problem the same way that you're describing? Is he going to be inciting?
So this is a guy that Elon has backed as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he drives the news in a way that I've never seen an entrepreneur drive the news, and this is something I've never that
He's
entrepreneur.
beyond entrepreneur. He's
Right,
I don't know. There's no label that fits him. He's beyond Renaissance man.
right.
He's beyond like you talk about all this media stuff. It's almost like the medieval fiefdoms, and then the big king comes along and he create the nation state out of the fiefdoms. He's bigger than that. He's bigger than a king.
He is.
It's out there.
He is trying to have influence all throughout the world at the
He's
biggest
not
levels.
trying. He is.
He is.
But
That's
his
correct.
greatest influence, Mike,
Yeah.
so people don't understand his greatest influence is
Mm-hmm,
on the human race. I would say
mm-hmm,
a quarter of the advancements that we are heading towards as human beings, as a species,
mm-hmm,
the great stuff that we look up to the stars and we look into our molecules, he's probably behind a quarter of that. He
mm-hmm.
personally is responsible for the advancement of our species.
Well,
And that's something that I don't think any other leader can really say.
right. He's advanced society for sure. But as far as like the history of this kind of an entrepreneur, Henry Ford dabbled in this stuff, but he was an anti-Semite. He was pro-Nazi, and he had a couple of newspapers. That was it. Steve Jobs never really got involved in politics. Bezos, very little with that stuff. The Rockefellers, J.P. Morgans, Thomas Edison, those guys, they generally got involved as basically as lobbyists in terms of trying to influence things in their direction, and they never had this kind of global reach. This is unique, and it's through it's not just through Twitter. But those guys had global industries as well. But I never seen anything like this, and um, he is weighing in on not almost every topic, but on topics that he thinks are important, whether they directly relate to his business or not, which you haven't seen. And the other thing is, when Rick Harrison, when he supported Marco Rubio in 2016, he later on said he saw a significant drop off in sales. Harrison's from Pawn Stars. Usually that's the blueprint. You don't, as a business owner, you don't want to support a politician, as Michael Jordan once said, Republicans buy shoes too. That's why he didn't want to delve into politics, because he wanted his shoes to be something everyone bought. And if you support one candidate, you're taking the other half of the populace out. And he didn't want to be that kind of a polarizing figure. And Elon is a polarizing figure, but it doesn't see, Tesla, they recently announced like somewhat soft sales, but their stock went down, but then went back up. The stock hasn't been affected. In terms of his businesses, I don't think any of them have been affected, even though he's pro-Trump, against illegal immigration. He's weighing in on all of these hot button issues that normally, if you're a business owner, you weigh in on. It hurts your business. It's not happening to him. What do they say, that the entrepreneurs, you break things? That's what he's doing globally. It's pretty impressive. I don't agree with him on Tommy Robinson. I think that guy's a provocateur. You're making him a no cause celeb, and you shouldn't. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to pull off the thing in Germany. We'll see. But don't underestimate this guy. We're witnessing a historic first among the kind of a person that he is. In terms of entrepreneurship, he's second to none amongst the Henry Fords and those guys. But in terms of global influence, I don't think in human history we've ever seen anything like this.
Now, Mike, I think that you're generally right about business owners don't get involved on the margins in politics. But when you get involved the way that he has, in the heart of it, like full in, all in, pot committed type thing, where he was giving $1 million a day away in Pennsylvania for new registered voters, and he was getting out the Trump message, and he was stumping, and he's saying, there's no better way I can spend my time in October and November than in Pennsylvania and getting votes for Donald Trump. And he's that close to Trump. He's got a little cottage in Mar-a-Lago now, and he's looking for a place in Palm Beach so he can be there and hang out. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets something up in Bedminster, pretty soon too. But that's what happens. That's the difference on the margins. Oh yeah, if you come out and say I support somebody, that's one thing. But if you are in that inner circle of the ruling class, the people in power, in the camarilla, that's a great Spanish word. Because the camarilla was the Spanish court and the Spanish king and queen, and it was yellow, camarilla. And if you were one of the people that stood in the yellow, you were in the camarilla, and you were instantly regarded as a person of influence, just because you stepped in the yellow portion of the floor in the throne room. And that is where Elon is. He's not just on the camarilla. I think he's the gatekeeper of the camarilla. I think he's beyond the camarilla.
He has done something that, as I said, even the John D. Rockefellers and Henry Fords of the world never did. It's pretty impressive, but I think that a guy like, at some point, you keep trying to influence policy in different countries. At some point, the populace is going to say, stop meddling in our internal affairs. And look, that's the blueprint, but maybe he'll
maybe.
maybe he'll break that.
They already kind of gave some love taps. Steve Bannon gave some
Well,
love taps.
well, not just them, but it's not going to be the Steve Bannons. It's going to be the actual population. You would think that Germans would say, who are you? You don't even live here. Stop telling us what's right and wrong. You don't know any better. And we'll see. We'll see. Look, they were polling at about 20%. They were number two. I don't remember who was number one. This is AFD in Germany. The elections in February, and we'll see what happens. So